So besides that, have you ever met? I've met a couple of conservative gay guys. Now, from what I can tell, is the conservative gay guys would do their best to avoid the gay scene in San Francisco. And rather than do the gay scene, what they do is they go on dates away from the gay scene, like go to a straight bar, straight club.
Right.
What is your intake about that?
Being that it's not as widely accepted everywhere in the States as it is in the Castro, I mean, and the large gay communities in any given state, I prefer to stay in the gay neighborhood because I don't ever want to question where I am or what I'm doing or the person with whom I'm holding hands. It's not proper. I shouldn't have to do that. So for myself and the person with whom I'm spending my time for their well-being and their comfortability, I stay where it's socially accepted. I have gone on dates outside of the gay community. I mean, I've been to various restaurants all over the city, and I've taken boyfriends and dates, various other wine bars, and movie theaters, just places to go, cultural events that you want to see, that aren't necessarily gay oriented, but definitely places of interest. And it doesn't detour me, but I like to stay where I'm comfortable, and I like to exist in my own. And I know it's a bubble, but I don't think that we should be fighting for the right to be accepted. And lately, I just selfishly don't want to deal with it, so I stay where I know it's okay.
So back in the day when you were in high school or elementary, is it hard being gay as a gay guy growing up?
When I was younger, into junior high, I knew what gay was, but didn't necessarily understand everything about it. When I was a lot younger, like when I lived in San Diego, which is like 8 years old and younger, I knew I was still gay, but didn't necessarily know what gay was. I just knew how I felt.
Okay.
And so, I think being that I discovered something earlier on, it wasn't as hard for me to accept it for myself. And I had friends like in high school who were gay but not necessarily out, but very obvious to everybody else. So we kind of clicked on the level of knowing who and what the other one was without really ever having to say it. So it wasn't really difficult. I've never actually seen or been exposed to opposition to being gay. I've never had somebody heckle me or been taunted or beaten up or had people, everybody stares at some point, but I've never seen any kind of a negative opposition to it, not outwardly anyway. So it was never really hard.
Okay. Pardon me. Regarding this matter, if ever your brother would talk to you regarding gay issues, what would you talk to him about? Let's say,
if he were interested in them? I'm pretty blunt. I'm actually very blunt, and I'm pretty brash. I don't censor a lot of what I say, because if you're going to ask a question, you're going to get the actual answer. I'm not going to sugarcoat it so that it's easy for you to take. So he's asked questions before, and some he's regretted, but I'll give somebody the absolute honest answer that I have, just because if it were any other topic, you wouldn't sugarcoat it. If you were asking about fuel injection or cars or construction, you wouldn't change the topic so that it was easily accessible to him to understand. So if I'm asked questions, I'll give a very blunt, open, honest answer.
Sure.
And whether they like it or not, they will go away with the right knowledge because they'll know what it's about.
So, from what I can tell, there's a movie coming out, what was that? Prop 8. Have you know about that certain movie? That's the way they're going to talk about the gay community?
I don't know much about the film, just the issue.
And what do you feel about the Mormons being behind the Prop 8 thing?
I think it's disgusting. If somebody has a belief and they're holding themselves to it, that's fine. But don't impose it on other people. The Mormon Church contributed one of the largest contributions to the anti-gay right Prop 8 movement for no reason. They're not even based in California. But they still felt the need to impose that for those in the state who still disgustingly are against gay marriage, and they still felt the need to back it, to fan the flames. So there were actually a series of commercials that came out afterwards that targeted the Mormon Church by the gay community. And it was basically like a parishioner going to the door and trying to like preach the good word, and at the end, various commercials, the person was gay, or he went in, he met the person, and it was a gay couple, and he was kind of like shown their light, and the Mormon Church had a fit, an absolute fit, and demanded that the commercials be taken down because the gay community had no right to take a shot at them, but they had no right to come into our business in our state and make their stand. I think most organized religions are very, very ignorant. You look at like Christianity, it says homosexuality is a sin. It also says that women who adorn themselves in bright jewelry and like really nice clothing should be stoned to death.
True.
And they never ever look at that. And one of the biggest oppositions to gay rights is women, which is ignorant because they only just got the right to vote. In the 50s? Something like that? And they fought just as hard as we did to get to own land, to vote, to make decisions, to be managers. And it's mind-boggling that somebody as a people would go through such a suffrage and then impose that on this whole other group when they know full and well what it's like to be there. And it's all based on ignorance. The Mormon Church, I grew up in a predominantly Mormon neighborhood, and I told them, look, this is what I am, don't come knocking on my door. And I was friends with all of my neighbors. They liked me as a person. Whether they agreed with my sexual beliefs or not, it wasn't a point. They liked me as a person. And I'm not a gay man who's a man, I'm a man who's gay. So they liked me as a person, as a man, somebody who grew up with their kids, went to high school with them, and that was fine. I'm okay with that. You don't have to love everything about our community, but don't impose your own beliefs because you think it's wrong. I'm not out picketing Mormon churches because I think polygamy is ignorant, or because I don't believe that you can't have caffeine or go outside of your house on Sundays, which they believe. They don't believe in divorce, yet every Mormon family I know comes from divorce. You're supposed to be ostracized from the church if you get divorced. Not a single one has been. But come out gay and you're just the devil. They pick and choose their battles to make themselves like every religion, to make themselves look fantastic, and those that they look down on look even worse.
So
Mormons they brought it on themselves.
What is your religion? Do you have any?
I don't. I was raised Christian in the sense that I was baptized and given the choice of when you're old enough to choose what you want to be. My father was raised strict Catholic. Mom was raised loosely Christian, nobody ever went to church on personal business. And when I was old enough, I just decided it wasn't for me. Even my little sister, who's 8 years to my junior, is completely agnostic and proud to be. And we have a lot of family who is religious, and they get a hold of us, and they're just like, how can you believe this? Why would you do this? And we can be braided for hours, and it never phases us, and I can sit there and argue my point for hours, and I never get tired of it. It never bothers me to do so. But it's when they started on the gay issues, that for whatever reason, it's the only issue they focus on. There's so many other things going on in society that are supposedly a sin, divorce being one of them, that they just choose to look the other way. This one is it's so been turned into a hot button, and they poke and point at us because I think it takes away from what they've done. One of my uncles is strictly religious. He's so just absurdly Christian and thinks gays are right. He's in the military, and he would never let the gays in the military. He's been married 3 times, divorced every time. He can't keep a woman. And yet, in every religion, you're not supposed to get divorced. You're not supposed to covet, someone else's wives or belongings, or, be jealous or envious. They're all sins, and they all do them. But for whatever reason, gay is so much worse, even though we just kind of love everybody. So, the churches brought it on themselves.
So, do you think if you have the capability and influence, what would you do for the gay community?
I would make who we are and what we do more accessible. I think ignorance is power in the sense that if we're not going to educate the straight community on who we are and what we believe and what we do, their ignorance is their power. And if we're just going to let them be ignorant, they're going to win. When Prop 8 first hit the scene, one of the biggest combatants to it was the gay community feeling that our ads on TV sugarcoated things too much. That we shied away from who and what we were. And we didn't take the standpoint that this is exactly what we are, and this is exactly what you would see. And we tried to make it acceptable for them so that it wouldn't scare them. And I think we failed in that sense. So I think it would have changed the outcome? Not necessarily. But I wasn't as proud of our movement as I would have been had we been more out there with, this is what you need to know about this. This is what it's like in a gay club, in the gay community. This is how we think and feel. We want the same things everybody else wants. From tax breaks, to the right to marry, to the right to adopt, to vote, to, you know, do everything. And some of these rights we have. And they go, well, you should be okay with that. But why? Women weren't okay not owning land. So they changed it. They fought for it. Blacks weren't okay not being able to do anything. They were bought and sold like property, like you would buy a couch to put in your living room. Look back now, and that's one of the stupidest things you've ever heard of. Why would you do that to a person? You take away what's supposed to be an inalienable right. But they're doing it to us now. Going, well, you have this right, you can get a domestic partnership, that should be okay. It's not. So I would make it very clear that we're no different than anybody else. We're teachers, we're doctors, we're